Infernape here. Now, recently, I actually got back into playing Yu-Gi-Oh Master Duel and Dueling Nexus. If you know me well, I am a massive Yu-Gi-Oh player. And I really love the fact that you can play so many different archetypes, even if you're not able to get the cards yourself physically. And I just really love that aspect, and it got me thinking, what are some of my favourite Yu-Gi-Oh archetypes? So, that's what I'm going to be going over today. You may think it's pretty challenging to figure out what are your top 10 favourite Yu-Gi-Oh archetypes when there are hundreds of different archetypes. But I managed to narrow it down to 10 due to the fact that I have played maybe 10 or 20, or probably around 20 different archetypes. So it was pretty easy to narrow it down. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below if you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. What is your favourite Yu-Gi-Oh archetype? If you're a massive Yu-Gi-Oh player like me, and if you have any video suggestions for the future, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. So without further ado, let's get into the video! At number 10, we have the Sacred Beast deck. Now I know that this is basically what people claim as the Tesco version of the Egyptian God deck, but personally I think that the Sacred Beast deck is actually a tiny bit stronger, due to the fact that I feel like they play off more of each other a bit better than the Egyptian gods. Plus, I think that the Sacred Beasts have a bit more support than the Egyptian gods, if I'm being totally honest. Sacred Beasts have so much support and they play off each other so well. Let me read some of the signature cards for this deck. Use Opening of the Spirit Gates to add one of the Sacred Beasts cards to from your deck to your hand, or a card that lists the Sacred Beast in its effect to the hand once a turn, or once a turn you can also discard a card to special summon a fiend monster with 0 attack and 0 defense points from your graveyard. If you control a level 10 monster, you can add a continuous spell from your deck to your hand. One of my favourite cards to use in this deck, that it comes under the 0 attack and 0 defense points fiend monsters, has to be Dark Beckoning Beast, because of the fact that it adds one of the Sacred Beasts or a card that lists them in its effects from your graveyard to your hand, except itself. During the main phase, you can special summon another fiend monster with 0 attack and 0 defense in addition to your normal summon, meaning this counts as an extra normal summon should you have a fiend type monster with 0 attack and 0 defense points. And that can come in handy because of 2 cards, those being Chaos Summoning Beast or Dark Summoning Beast, since both allow you to tribute them and then either special summon any of the Sacred Beasts from either your hand or your deck straight to the field. Chaos Summoning Beast allows you to do it from your hand to the field, and Dark Summoning Beast allows you to do it from your deck. So these play off each other so well. Its field spell allows you to draw 2 cards every main phase if you control one of the Sacred Beast cards. Hyperblades can be used to summon an Uriah using face down traps you control, and if you attack using Uriah, you can send 1 trap card to the graveyard to make its attack points equal to every face up and face down traps, and all traps in both graveyards, and then times it by 1000. Meaning, you can literally search your opponent's graveyards and back row for trap cards, and if they have them, it gets 1000 attack points for every trap card. And that's in addition to your own trap cards. Meaning Uriah's attack points are going to go through the roof. If you discard a card, and you can add one Unsacred Beast or special summon one without the summoning requirements. Then there's Awakening of the Sacred Beast, which allows you to have multiple effects depending on how many Sacred Beasts you control with different names. And then there's Dark Dimension Destruction, which allows you to fusion summon Armatile using the 3 Sacred Beasts. While this deck may not be as powerful as it was in the anime, it's still pretty broken if you ask me. Yes, it may have some minor weaknesses, but I definitely think that this deck is a very OP deck. And honestly, I would happily buy 3 copies of the structure deck, so that way I can dominate all my friends using the Sacred Beasts. At number 9, we have Gimmick Puppets. Now I can't lie, Gimmick Puppets are insane. I don't know how broken they are in competitive play, but they are absolutely broken. Bisque Doll can be special summoned by discarding 1 Gimmick Puppet from your hand, and if you banish it from your graveyard, your other Gimmick Puppets can't be targeted by effects for the rest of the turn. Magnet Doll can be special summoned if your opponent has at least 1 monster on the field, and all monsters you control are Gimmick Puppets. Durari Doll can be special summoned from your graveyard by banishing another Gimmick Puppet in your graveyard, and if you can only use it for an XZ summon if it's a Gimmick Puppet XZ monster. Destroy can target 1 other Gimmick Puppet on the field and then destroy it. And if it's in the graveyard, you can special summon 2 Gimmick Puppets in the graveyard to the field. Humpty Dumpty can special summon another Gimmick Puppet from your hand to the field, and Gear Changer can change its level to another Gimmick Puppet you control. If you think that's broken, we haven't even gotten to the boss monsters. Giant Grinder can destroy any special summon monster twice a turn, and if it's an Xyz monster that you destroy, you can inflict effect damage equal to its current attack points. Giant Hunter can do this as well, but it can also destroy any type of card that's on the field. And if it's a monster card, you can inflict effect damage to its attack points. Strings can give all monsters on your opponent's side of the field a string counter, and then at your opponent's end phase, any monster that's on the field with a string counter is automatically destroyed, and your opponent loses 500 life points for each one. Dark Strings also destroys all monsters with a string counter, then you are able to draw 1 card, and your opponent loses the monster that has the highest attack points, and it also loses life points damage equal to its attack points. Then there's Leo, who can gain destiny counters each time it loses an overlay unit, and if it has 3 counters on it, you also win the duel. Then there's Disaster Leo, who can inflict 1000 points of damage each time you lose an overlay unit, and if your opponent's life points is below 2000 and your outer overlay unit, you also win the duel. This deck is absolutely broken. Honestly, I have used this in Dueling Nexus, and this deck brings destruction. That is the only way I can describe this deck. It is absolutely destructive. I highly recommend anybody to use Gimmick Puppets, because they are so broken as hell. At number 8, we have the Crystal Beast deck. I can't lie, ever since I got the structure deck for Crystal Beast, I fell in love with them. I wasn't the greatest fan of them when I first got introduced to them, but after using them for a bit, I kinda like them. Pegasus can special summon another Crystal Beast to the Spell and Trap card zone. Ruby can special summon all Crystal Beasts that are in the Spell and Trap card zone if it gets special summoned. Topaz Tiger can gain 400 extra attack points while it's attacking something, or attacking directly. Amethyst Cat can attack directly by cutting its own attack points in half. Cobalt Eagle can send a monster you control to the top of the deck. Emerald Turtle can change an attacking monster's battle position. Amber Mammoth can change your opponent's attack target to it. Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon can be special summoned from your hand when an attack is declared involving a Crystal Beast. And if it's in the Spell and Trap card zone, you can banish it, summon another Crystal Beast monster, as long as it's level 4 or below, and all of its effects aren't fully negated, and then you can add an ultimate crystal or monster from your deck to your hand. Then there's Rainbow Dragon, which can only be special summoned with 7 Crystal Beasts that with different names, either on the field, in your Spell and Trap card zone, or in your graveyard. And also, if you banish all Crystal Beast monsters, it gains 1000 attack points for each. This deck also has so much signature support as well. There's cards that allow it to add cards from your deck to your hand and then send another to the spell and trap card zone. There's also one where you can add Crystal Beast to the spell and trap card zone by banishing it from the graveyard. There's cards that also increase your life points by your combined Crystal Beast attack points, and also a chance for you to add Crystal Beast from your hand. There's also a continuous trap card that allows you to add on attack points equal to your Crystal Beast defense points. And there's also a boss monster which has the potential to gain 11,000 attack points. Now, if that's not an OP deck, I don't know what is. At number 7, we have Spellcasters. Now, when I say Spellcasters, I kind of mean Dark Magician. Because, let's be honest, Spellcasters and Dark Magician kind of come under the same category. There's so much support for Dark Magician. For example, Dark Magician's Robe or something like that. I can't remember its name, I'm so sorry. But basically, during your opponent's standby phase, you can discard a spell card and then special summon Dark Magician from your hand or deck, I believe. Then there's Spellcaster's Rod, I believe that's what it's called. Basically, when it's summoned, you can add either a spell or a trap card from your deck that specifically lists Dark Magician in its text. Dark Magical Circle allows you to search the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you have a monster or a spell or trap card that has Dark Magician in it, you can add it straight back to your hand, and all other cards can go to the top of your deck and place in any order you wish. Then there's all sorts of powerful monsters. For example, Apprentice Illusion Magician. That can be very useful because of the fact that it can be special summoned by discarding a card, and if you discard a spellcaster while it's on the field, it gains attack points equal to the discarded monster. And there's also one of my personal favourites, Mahad. Mahad can be special summoned as the second you draw it, as long as it's not in your starting hand. And if it attacks a dark attribute monster, its attack points are doubled. And there's also another one of my personal favourites, Dark Magician of Chaos, which can be used to banish all monsters that it destroys. And also, on the turn that it's summoned, if it stays on the field and you end your phase right there and then, you're also allowed to add any spell card that may be on your graveyard to your hand. So you could add Dedication Through Light and Darkness, which you could have used to special summon it. You could have added Pot of Greed, or you could add Monster Reborn. I definitely would recommend going with either Dedication Through Light and Darkness or Monster Reborn. Because with those, you can auto-summon another Dark Magician of Chaos, and the loop just continues. Then there's all sorts of powerful extra deck monsters. Some of my personal favourites have got to be Dark Paladin and Ebon High Magician. Honestly, spellcasters are just it. No wonder that Yugi loved to use his spellcasters. At number 6, we have the Cyberdragon deck. Now, I don't know if other people do this, but I separate the Cyberdragon archetype from the CYBERDARK archetype. I don't know if anyone else does it, but that's what I do. But honestly, Cyberdragons are still OP as hell. I love using Cyberdragons. As we all know, Cyberdragon can be special summoned, and if all monsters are on the opponent's side of the field. Cyberdragon Core can add any cyber spell or traps from deck to hand, and can be banished from your graveyard to special summon another Cyberdragon monster from your deck. Cyberdragon Hertz can add a Cyberdragon when it's in the graveyard. Cyberdragon NACHSTER special summons any monster in your graveyard with 2100 attack or defense points. All Chimera tech monsters are broken in their own right. Twin Dragon and can attack twice every battle phase, and Cyber End Dragon can inflict piercing battle damage. Then there's my personal favourite monster, Cyberdragon Infinity, which basically can attach any monster on the field, whether it's your side or your opponent's side, to itself as an overlay unit to increase its own attack power. Then, if your opponent activates any card effect, Cyberdragon Infinity can just lose an overlay unit, Negated, destroyed, bye-bye Felicia. There's also a somewhat powerful link card which I currently use, but I'm probably going to ditch after I get the correct cards I need. That being Cyberdragon Seeger, which basically allows you to gain 2100 attack points on a different monster that you control. And the sacrifice is that the Cyberdragon Seeger can't inflict any damage to your opponent at all. But it's a good thing, because all you need to do is give up one monster's attack to increase your own monster's attack. For example, let's say if I use Cyber End Dragon and I use Power Bond to summon that Cyber End Dragon, which means it's currently 8,000 attack points. I go in for an attack, activate Cyberdragon Seeger's effect to then give it 2100 extra attack points. You're pretty much screwed, even if your monster's in attack or defense position, because thanks to Cyber End Dragon, it can inflict piercing battle damage. So as you can see, Cyber Dragons are pretty powerful. That's kind of why I like them. At number 5, we actually have a deck that's actually a fusion deck because of the fact that they kind of work off each other and they kind of come under the same umbrella. That being the Elemental Heroes and the Masked Heroes. Because basically, there's a structure deck out there that gives you Elemental and Masked Heroes. And honestly, they work so well off each other. So if you make a fusion deck for both Elemental Heroes and Masked Heroes, you're pretty much game. Flame Wingman can inflict damage by either destroying monsters' attack points, Thunder Giant can destroy a monster whose original attack points is less than its own, Shining Flare Wingman gains extra attack points for every Elemental Hero monster in the graveyard, and it also keeps Flame Wingman's effect. Absolute Zero gains 500 attack points for all water monsters that's on the field except for itself. And here's one of my favourite combinations. If it leaves the field in any way, all monsters controlled by the opponent are automatically destroyed. That leads into a very powerful combination, because if you use Mask Change and summon Masked Hero Acid, you can destroy all monsters that's on the field, and then thanks to Acid's effect, you can destroy all spell and trap cards your opponent controls, and if there are any monsters left on the field, which I highly doubt there will be, that monster loses 300 attack points for every single card that's destroyed this way. Meaning, it can cripple your monsters should they survive, and it can also sweep your opponent's side of the field, both front and back row, leaving your opponent with very little options. Darklaw banishes all monsters that are sent to the graveyard, and a card that gets added to your hand except during the draw phase will allow the controller to pick a random card in the opponent's hand and banish it. Then there's Contrast Hero Chaos, which can negate a monster's effects that's controlled by the opponent until the end of the turn. Honestly, Masked Heroes are just absolutely broken, and since they work well off Elemental Heroes, they can work so well with each other. That's why I love using this type of deck, because it can cripple the opponent really fast. At number 4, we have Galaxy Eyes. Now, honestly, the Galaxy Eyes deck is something that I recently fell in love with because of the fact that I used it a lot in Dueling Nexus. And it is so broken as hell. Photon Thrasher is special summoned if you control no monsters. Photon Knight can be special summoned without a sacrifice if you control a monster with Galaxy or Photon in their name. Galaxy Wizard can increase its level by 4, or you contribute it for a Galaxy card. Except Galaxy Wizard, of course. Galaxy Soldier can be special summoned by discarding a card. Photon Vanisher can be special summoned while you control a Photon or Galaxy monster, and then it adds a Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon from your deck to your hand. Afterglow Dragon can be special or summoned if you control a Galaxy Eyes monster. And then there's Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon, which can be special summoned by sacrificing 2 monsters on your side of the field with attack points that are either 2000 or greater. And then it can also banish itself as well as the attack target, and then it returns both to its rightful owners at the end of the turn. and if that monster that it battled was an Xyz monster, it loses all of its overlay units, and Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon gains 500 attack points for each overlay unit. There are also some very powerful combinations you can use with the extra deck, such as Neo Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon, Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon, Neo Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon, Cypher X Dragon, Cypher Blade Dragon. Hell, you could even summon Numeron Dragon if you really wanted to. Because if you use 97 Dragu Bion, you can then get rid of its overlay units, then special summon the Numeron Dragon, get rid of Numeron Dragon's overlay unit, and then it gains 1,000 attack points for every Xyz rank, including itself. Meaning it will go straight up to 9,000 attack points, which is basically an OTK. Honestly, Galaxy Eyes decks are just so fun to play with. I always have so much fun using Galaxy Eyes. And honestly, I'm surprised I haven't actually bought the Galaxy Eyes structure deck on Master Duels yet. Probably gonna go do that soon. At number 3, we have the Ancient Gear deck. Honestly, this is by far one of the most fun decks to play, if you ask me. If I would recommend a deck to play, one of them would definitely be Ancient Gears. Ancient Gear Golem does piercing battle damage, and while it's attacking, your opponent can't activate spells or traps until the end of the damage step. Ultimate Pound does piercing battle damage as well, and can attack again each time you discard a machine monster from your hand, and if it's destroyed, you can add Polymerization from your deck to your hand, and then add an Ancient Gear monster from your graveyard to your hand. Wyvern adds any Ancient Gear card from your deck to your hand. Gear Town makes it so it takes one less sacrifice to summon Ancient Gears, and if it's destroyed, you can summon one Ancient Gear monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, it's basically a stronger version of Golem. Plus, thanks to the new continuous spell Clockwork Knight, all machine monsters gain 500 attack points as long as you control them. And also, all monsters on the field are now considered machine monsters. So that's always fun. Plus, if you combine this with Ancient Gear Castle, which makes all Ancient Gear monsters 300 attack points stronger, every Ancient Gear monster is going to have 800 extra attack points. Combine that with stuff like Power Bond or Limiter Removal, and you're going to be a very tough opponent to beat. At number 2, we actually have the very first archetype that I ever called my own. Because I don't really think mixed decks are classed as an archetype, if you ask me. That being the Blue Eyes White Dragon deck. Honestly, this was my favourite deck for a very long time, but I discovered a new deck that I absolutely adore. But let's talk about Blue Eyes for a minute. As we all know, Blue Eyes is the strong Ungus vanilla monster. Then there's Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, which can be special summoned by revealing a Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand, and it can also destroy any monster your opponent controls by sacrificing its battle phase. White Stone of Legends adds Blue Eyes White Dragon and from deck to hand when it's in the graveyard. White Stone of Ancient special summons a Blue Eyes White Dragon from deck to field, and by banishing itself, it can add a Blue Eyes White Dragon from graveyard to hand. Maiden with Eyes of Blue can special summon Blue Eyes White Dragon if an effect is activated or if it's targeted by an attack. Blue Eyes Abyss Dragon adds a Ritual spell or Polymerization from deck to hand, and if it will special summon, and it can do this, plus you can also add any level 8 or higher dragon monster from your deck to your hand. Now we're going to come across my favourite monster of all time. That being Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon. Honestly, this card is a beast. Not only can it not be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects, it's fully immune to them whatsoever. So continuous effects, monster effects, spells, traps, nothing. It's not gonna work. But I can use my spell and trap cards and monster effects on Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon. Plus, if it attacks a monster in defense mode, then it does piercing battle damage times 2. So let's say you destroy a monster with 2,000 attack points, 2,000 defense points, sorry. It will then do 4,000 effect damage rather than 2,000. Plus, if you combo that with the Red Eyes Black Dragon Sword, it will then gain 1,000 attack points just for holding it, plus 500 attack points for every dragon monster both players control and in both graveyards. So if you combine all of that, you've got a virtually indestructible monster. Honestly, you just can't hate Blue Eyes. Like, Blue Eyes decks are just so iconic. Plus, they're broken as hell, and for a good reason. But there's still one archetype that I haven't gone over yet. And finally, at number 1, we have the CYBERDARK deck. I separate CYBERDARKs from CyberDragons. Not sure if everyone else does, but that's what I do. And it has got to be my favourite deck of all time. Fun fact for you, whenever I duel some of my friends using CYBERDARKs, they just flat out refuse to duel me because of how broken I make this deck. I'm sure we all remember the first 3 CYBERDARK cards. You can equip a level 3 or lower dragon monster in your graveyard to it, and it gains the attack points of that monster. And depending on which card you use, you can either do piercing battle damage, attack directly, or do an extra 300 points of damage every time you destroy a monster. But thanks to the upgraded versions, we've got brand new stuff. For example, by discarding a monster that's in your hand to the graveyard, you can add a machine-type CYBERDARK monster from your deck to your hand. Or you can discard another monster to add a CYBERDARK spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Using another card allows you to add Power Bond from your deck to your hand, but it allows you to only fusion summon machine monsters if you use it this way. But if you activate Power Bond the same turn that it's added to your hand, you can use monsters that's both on your field, in your hand, and in your graveyard. But should they come from the graveyard, they have to be removed from play. There's also cards that help with negates, negate your monsters from being targeted or destroyed by card effects. There's also a monster that's practically indestructible and can attack up to 5 turns. Honestly, I love using this deck. And honestly, I have gained a brand new fondness for new archetypes. But I still don't like Lynx. But I do like it when old archetypes gain a power boost so that way they can keep up with competitive play currently. And that's why I really like CYBERDARKs, because they are pretty powerful now. Because back in the day, they were kind of overlooked. But now, they are a dominating threat. And I can't believe they even made it into a structure deck. Like, now people can just obliterate anyone and anything. I mean, thank you Yu-Gi-Oh creators for giving me a very powerful deck. But with this deck, I can kind of destroy all my opponents to dust. But honestly, that's why I really like this deck. Plus, also, I think Zane Truesdale's an absolute badass. Let's be honest, we all think that he's an absolute badass. And now that, guys, hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below if you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. If you like Yu-Gi-Oh as much as I do, what are some of your favourite archetypes? If you think I missed an archetype, and if you have any video suggestions for the future, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Did you enjoy the video as much as I did making it? If you did, be sure to give it a massive thumbs up, comment down below, share this video with a friend, and if you're new, subscribe to my channel. It's been Inferno today. Okay, that's all from me, so until the next time, this is Inferno, signing off. Bye!